Welcome! In this series of videos, we will cover the design and implementation of a project, from initial design through coding and development to testing, using the PowerBasic Windows compiler. Today we will look again at our enhanced message box function and convert it into a static linked library, using the PowerBasic Windows compiler. The purpose of our project was to produce an enhanced message box. The standard message box that comes with both PowerBasic and Windows is very useful. However, it does have limitations. In the body of the message box, only text is shown, and we wish to enhance this to allow a URL to be embedded inside the message box. Also, the number of buttons on the message box is limited to 3. And the text on those buttons is also limited. We wanted to expand on that to allow a range of buttons to allow us to place specific text on specific buttons to make it clearer to the user what they were being asked to do. We first produced this enhanced message box in a dynamic link library. Dynamic link libraries are another way to produce common libraries. These are compiled like applications to produce a binary file with the extension of DLL. The DLL will have a list of exported functions and procedures that will form the interface between the DLL and your application. Like applications, DLLs are formed of code files and can of course make use of include files. The PowerBasic Windows compiler can produce executables, dynamic link libraries, static link libraries, while the console compiler can produce executables and static linked libraries. While these dynamic link libraries are separate from your executable, they do have the advantage in that you can actually roll out shared code in one DLL. This DLL can be used by many applications. Static linked libraries are in a sense somewhere between include files and DLLs. Like DLLs, they are compiled binaries, but like include files, they can be added to your applications at compilation time. Having compiled a static link library, you can use the link command in your source code to add in the code pre-compiled in your static linked library. You can of course give this static linked library to other developers, who can then add the file to their applications without them having access to the source code that made the static link library in the first place. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to take the source code that existed that produced our dynamic link library, and we're going to turn it into a static link library so that the functionality of our message box can be compiled directly into any application. So let's go now and have a look at the code. This was our code at the end of the last video. We have two source files here, the PB message box source file, which is our application, and the PB utils, which is our dynamic linked library. If we run our application, it will compile and it will give us a message box on screen. This message box has the embedded URL and the 3 buttons we have passed to it. Once a button is clicked upon, the text of the button will be returned to the calling function. This way we can quite happily pick up which button the user has clicked upon. As I said, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be turning the dynamic link library into a static linked library. So let's have a look at the DLL code first of all. The very first line in our source code is compile DLL. That's the first thing we wish to change. We'll change that from DLL to SLL. Having made that change, the next thing we need to do is to remove the libmain function. The libmain function, like the pbmain function in your application, is the first function that is executed when the DLL is accessed. Since we're going to be using this as a static to link library, we no longer need this function, so we can remove it. We will keep the PB message box function as it stands. If we attempt to compile this now, we will see we're getting an error message. We're getting the error message because the resource command we're using to include the icons that will appear on our message box are not valid in a static linked library. So how are we going to get the icon resources accessible to the static linked library? First of all, let's comment these 4 lines of code out and try the compile again. Having commented them out, if we compile once more, the static link library will compile quite happily. And as you will see, it has now produced a pbutils.sll. We can see this static link library is now appearing as a file in the folder. This file is considerably smaller than the DLL because this file does not contain any of the 4 icons. However, once we try and run our application, we're still going to need those icons to be available to the code within the static link library. So how can we do that? In our application, we're going to have to make some changes as well. We could add the 4 resource commands to our main application, plus the link command to link into the static link library. However, I'm going to produce a pbutils.include file. And in this include file, I'm going to put the resource commands for each of the icons we wish to include. And additionally, below that, we will put in a link command to link into the pbutils.staticLinkLibrary file. And all we need to do in our main application is to add this include file to the beginning of the program. So there in our application is our include file. When we were accessing the message box function in the DLL, we needed to declare the function. As we're no longer accessing the DLL, we can comment this out quite happily. So if we now attempt to compile our application, it will compile quite cleanly. So if we attempt to run our application now, this PB message box application now has the embedded SSL and the 4 icons. And we get the message box appearing quite happily. Just to be sure that the message box is not in fact still accessing the DLL, we can move the message box away from this folder so it's no longer being able to see either the icons or the DLL. So if we create a new folder called test area and we copy our messagebox.exe into that folder. So inside this folder, the application no longer has access to the DLL. If we run the application now, we will still get our pop-up message box. The URL is still valid, and the clicking of the button still returns the name of the button actually clicked upon. So in summary, what we've achieved today is we've taken the code for our enhanced message box function and we've migrated it into a static link library by changing only a few lines of code within our source. We've changed the compile option to compile to static link library. We've removed the resource commands and put them in an include file. And we've also removed the libmain function, which exists for dynamic link libraries but is not required for your static link library. Within the main application, the only other change we made was to remove the declare function command, which previously declared a function existing within the DLL. Now that we've created a static link library, we can now reference this in any of our other applications by merely using the include file, the pbutils.include, and the pre-compiled static link library will be slotted in to those applications. Hopefully you'll find that useful in your own code, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching.